Okay, so again, this isn't always the case, but on this day, decision 1 led to decision 2, and again, decision 2 leads to decision 3. This takes us to 43.55. Further initiative into initiative. It shows signs, principles of exhaustion highs, as well as some imbalances. So, continuation from key decision 2, the auction to the downside is a slow grind down. At the upper end of the auction, we see another shift in the market. Principle there is low volume. Aggressive, continuous selling begins to meet buying at 43.58. This move begins trapping longs as they're pushed offside, and the auction continues lower. Similar to the buying we saw in the morning, where we would initiate price to the upside, absorb, and initiate, we're seeing the same action but to the downside. It's important to understand that the price will continue in motion until it's met by a force able to stop it. These low volume conditions are rarely enough to stop a directional move. Working in these conditions requires a lot of patience. Side note, price flushes below 43.40, and I have no interest partaking in the game between 43.40 and 08s. Instead, I let the bottom come through and awaited a trigger to join the move to the upside at or near 43.40. So I know that a couple of you guys in chat today had questions on what I look for triggers. Hopefully I'll be able to explain that here within this key decision. So let's jump on into it. Key decision A for 3A, 43.58. Okay, so there's a nuance in this auction. It's a strong auction. Again, I define strong auctions by the overlap between, or the penetration between the recent columns. In this strong auction, we see this little price area form a bubble of trapped buyers. And this is a subtle clue. These areas often lead to a good reoffer zone, and a combination of these three features usually allow you to fade the retest. I thought it would come slightly higher, like maybe targeting this area, but I missed, and I missed the TP into reversal play. Let me jump over to the one tick footprint chart, and let's take a look what happened here. So 43.58, we see these lows come through. Buyers are stepping in, but again, not the extreme colors that we'd expect after, this 40-point down move. But trapped buyers nonetheless. What do we see? About like 1,200 contracts traded here at the lows, and it further pushes the buyers offside. It takes us into 3B, 43.58. Again, okay. So this is the initiation into absorption by the sellers into further initiation down to the downside. Okay. So similar to what we saw from the buyers earlier on in this session, the opposite and exact principle is being displayed by the sellers. So essentially, it's like a really good day to understand what initiation into initiation looks like. Let me recap that. So we drive down and initiate price below swing lows. We drive down further. It's met by absorption. Let me jump over to the ticks. So we're on 2 ticks now. We see extreme colors on the edges of this auction. Extreme move to the sellers to the downside, extreme blue and red to the downside further. Up here into this little reoffer area, gets swatted down again. We see sellers getting absorbed at the lows, but they're not offside. They're not taking much heat. And from here, if we just draw a quick line, we can see here that this delta, this dark shade of blue, is able to release or get untrapped. And from there, the market continues lower. So as I explained in the summary, I did not know how to play in this area. Because it's below my key pivot and in between 43.08 pivot down here. So I'd rather just wait to see the interaction and try to catch a move to the upside. So this gives a good opportunity. I switched back to the 1 tick. This gives a good opportunity to show what I'm looking for triggers since I played the trigger. I missed the reversal because I didn't know how to interact down here. My conditions were not met. I did not see an increased volume. I did not see an increased delta flip, and I did not see increased speed of tape, but the market still reversed. And that's okay. I missed the reversal, but the conditions weren't met. Having higher probability ideas is going to be better for me. So it's going through this process. Price goes down into these lows. It's met by some good buying here, splashes lower twice, and then we see some clues of absorption at the lows. From here, price is able to nearly, fully engulf this 43.40, fully engulf the previous candle, reaching towards 43.40. This is when I wanted to get long. Like I always lean on my pivots to enter. I rarely enter outside of pivot or at least near it. And I'm just going to expand these columns to better view the calculated values. But I essentially identified these reversals. I think I tweeted about this actually. I identified this potential for a reversal happening. And if we are allowed to get over 43.40, we're likely able to challenge higher. I think I was aiming 43.70, but I ended up taking profit here and then at 45 or something. So what I saw for a trigger is a full reversal against the previous column that impacted the new low of day. That was also again met by sellers absorbed at the lows. And right here is where I placed my buy order. I placed a buy stop order a tick above 43.40, aka this little section over here. And I was hesitant at first until I saw the interest right here at 39s and right here 39.5. This interest at buying at the top of this opening candle was giving me confidence to leave my buy stop order right here in this area, and pretty much immediately a blast off for 8 points. I took 8 off and then I let the rest go for the higher targets. And that leads us to this next key decision though. So my trade aside, I know that students were looking for what triggers I'm looking for. I'm looking for a breakout of this auction. I'm looking for darker shades in the direction that I am favoring. So I'm seeing the darker shades of longs. And I also try to lean on both a pivot that I'm already playing against. In this case, it's 40s, and a reference point, which happened recently, which in this case is this failed iceberg. And so that trade aside, this leads us to our next revisit of 58s, where the market comes off the lows, off the 43.40 pivot, and enters the area of retest. I mentioned that there are a couple clues in this area that offer pretty good chances of experiencing some reoffer or some pullback. And here is when we start to see a couple of clues actually that give the context for a fade. So utilizing the footprint, we can objectively see a 2-tick high exhaustion pattern, right? So in this column here, 1310, we can see our favorite one of my favorites to identify is this exhaustion, 0x64 and 0x47. This means that either A, stops were triggered and there's no power to continue to drive price higher, or B, a seller enters the market aggressively, not allowing any volume to be done at these highs. So it's noted by exhaustion. And from here, we see one of the biggest clues to enter the market, and that is indicated right here. So this leads us to 3C, 43.52. We see conditions for a reversal again. Note the relative shift in volume, yeah? There's an increased delta, increased pace of tape, and this offer started off by clearing a full 7 prices at market. We identify those as a sweep. So if I'll draw a quick box. This entire area was taken out by one order. So that's evidence of, a tape bomb, a large seller entering at market aggressively. It's able to take out this 1,000 lot buyer, and that leads to further continuation to the downside. So just following through with what happened here, again, we have this idea, this context of fading this sharp auction. It shows a lot of power when price is able to not overlap and trap longs. And we have exhaustion at the highs. It's a pretty good signal to get short on a relatively tight stop. And then we see exhaustion breaking an iceberg, which is further confirmation. And that drives price all the way back down below 43.40. We see buyers or sellers initiating at the lows and being rewarded. So this is kind of like the red light. And again, I did not play in this area because I didn't know how to lean against this. But regardless, price is able to bounce off of these lows temporarily, and we start bouncing off the lows. It carries us back into that same reoffer zone once more before the seller says, I've had enough, gotten my fill, let's slam this thing. And we see conditions. So this leads us to our 3D, 43.53. We see the imbalance defended. So again, if I just draw that same box I identified earlier of the zeros, this imbalance is defended, and sellers initiate price to the downside, driving for a full 35 points lower, taking price to our next key decision. So this area was good. It was probably a little trickier to jump on this for the third retest. But, if this didn't clue you in, the seller defending this imbalance, and if this didn't clue you in, you had plenty of time to jump on board again on relatively zero risk if you're playing short side. Note the low volume, this entire column. 40s get blown out. More absorption gets blown out. This is actually pretty similar to the same price action we saw this morning on March 1st. But regardless, price drills another 35 points to the downside and taking us to our next key decision. I'll be jumping into the next video.